Awesome. Yadiiiigg, 4 eyes, 2 Gs. What's going on, bro?
You know how we coming? What's good, Ross? My fellow Commonwealth comrade.
Commonwealth
Very
comrade.
rare.
Damn, bro. It's crazy. The Commonwealth gang in the building, man. Commonwealth
Yeah,
gang in the building.
UK, Oz, very rare link up things. You know how we coming?
Oh, come on, man. Come on. Got to have that UK Oz link up. I feel like there's been a lot of like very close kind of like association between the UK and Australia recently, especially with like all the drill scenes kind of merging, like getting a little bit of heat off of each other and stuff. Like, I feel like it's a good time for the UK and the Aussies to link up, you know?
Yeah. I think it's really, really interesting what we're seeing going right now, and especially when you connect it to the whole US, what's going on in New York.
Yeah,
it's just all interconnected, and even just seeing how big like 1-4 and that are getting, and how much exposure they're getting in the UK and America right now. It's like literally insane to think about.
They love them over here, man. Like, honestly, I mean, I love them over here, but like, yeah, it's just surprising, like, how big they've managed to get in the UK so fast. And I guess, like, part of that is, like, they make a lot of references to, like, UK drill rappers. The beats are just, like, so UK drill inspired, but I just feel like there's been something, like, a little bit more, like, emotional and just, like, deep about the way that the Aussie drillers get their beats put together. I don't know what it is, man, but I've been loving the stuff that's coming out of your country, man.
I think they're like super expressive, and they don't hide the fact that they're Australian as well. Like someone like Kid Laroi. I know me and you have kind of like spoken about this before. Like Kid Laroi is Australian, but he doesn't really embrace his Australian roots as much. Like you can't really tell he's from Australia when he raps. Whereas like someone like 1-4 and a lot of the other drill guys from Australia, like you can tell throughout their accent, they really from Australia and they really embrace it. And what's super interesting as well, I don't know if you know this, but like they blow up because of like the UK reaction channels and the US reaction channels kind of reacting to them. That's how they got their buzz overseas. Like they were like quite well known in Australia for a while, but when all these reaction channels started to do all these like Australian drill rappers reactions, like that's how they really started to get popular overseas. So it's like super interesting.
That's a really cool strategy, man. I guess I'd seen that a lot of people had been reacting to them, but it was kind of like when I saw those kind of things like in my recommendations and stuff, like I heard a few people talking about it and I just listened to the music and just like went from there. Like I don't think I've ever even watched a reaction. I imagine it's super funny to watch a reaction of people that just like hearing that for the first time and are like, oh, these Aussies are like crazy, oh my god. But like, yeah, man, they're so sick. It's such an interesting scene. I've been thinking about doing a video about like the Aussie drill scene for so long, but just it's one of those ones where it's just like trying to work out the right thing to say about the scene and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever seen a Vice? I'm not sure if you even know the publication Vice. Have you seen the video that they did about it?
I did, yeah. I saw that a little while ago. Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Super interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll link you that, and that's like a good reference point. But yeah, it's definitely real. I'll say that. Like the stories they come from, the stories they're trying to tell, like the areas that they come from. I'm not sure if you can compare it to like the traps of America or something like that, but they're definitely like very struggle areas, like very hard come ups. And there's a lot of like poverty and like a lot of violence that comes from those areas. So it's like a very authentic come up as well, which is why another reason I think it like speaks to people like so like connects with people so strongly.
That's so true. It definitely like relates to what you're saying as well about them being like really honest about being Australian and like really proud of their identity. And I feel like that's setting aside Kid Laroi, I feel like that's kind of what makes music like most interesting to me. Is just as far as like it's so interesting because I didn't know anything about like the areas that they're talking about and stuff, and it's just like fascinating to hear them be honest about it, to hear them not try and like they take a bit of UK slang, a bit of US slang, some of their own slang, which is cool. Like I hear them saying, what is it they're calling like their ops like gronks and shit, is that right?
Yeah, gronks is like Australian term, like super Australian term.
Really?
Like it's one of those terms that like Australians will say, like Australians will say, but like the average Australian populace like won't say, because it's kind of like a corny, or it's like looked down upon. You know what I mean? It's funny to hear them say that. Yeah.
But yeah, man, they're dope, man. I love it. I love learning the new slang, man. It's kind of like when I first got into UK drill, because it's like growing up in kind of like, being around London, spending years in South London, and like living in some of the areas that like you hear people talk about on the songs. It's just like you feel that real affinity to the music when they're using language that like you hear in the streets, or like you hear people saying, and it's just like the kind of things that you never hear in other music. I guess that's sometimes why it's a bit weird when you hear someone like Drake doing the whole UK drill thing, using the slang. with his Canadian accent, and I know there's a lot of crossover with like Canadian drill and UK drill slang and stuff, but it's like it's so interesting. But it's just, to me, it's like that authenticity of like like the guys from 1-4 or like 21 are teaching me about like Australian street culture I didn't know about like for the first time, and it's just like, it just makes it so exciting, bro.
Yeah, 100%. And that conversation about Drake is like, I think it's such like an interesting and multi-layered discussion, like so many different levels, because like there's literally no way you could argue that Drake is anything but a wave rider and like a biter. If you isolate it in one box and you look at it just for what it is, 100% over the years he's like bitten people, he's ridden waves. But at the end of the day, for me, the way I look at it is like I'm just such a Drake fan. I can't help but just enjoy the music. And like, even when he does the drill shit, like when he does it, in my opinion, he just does it justice, and it sounds really, really good. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, man, because it's like I clicked on a video on YouTube the other day. I can't remember who it was. It was someone I hadn't watched before, but they were doing like a breakdown of like, why Drake. I think it was I can't remember who it was, but it was something like, is Drake,
I think I know the one you're talking about. Is Drake a scam artist or something?
Yes, scam artist or a genius. And I was watching that.
I think it's Alpha Media. I think, just to give him his credit, I think it might be Alpha Media. Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, and it was funny because I really enjoyed the video, and I felt like the content, as far as like all the info he'd compiled, was spot on. But then I just felt like, it was kind of very anti-Drake, and I'm often very anti-Drake, so it but I feel like it overlooked one crucial point, which is that like, yes, you can call him a wave rider, and yes, in many ways he has kind of clout jacked a lot of people for his own benefit. But any artist, especially outside of the hip hop genre, any artist that's been able to survive a career for 10 years, stay on top, and constantly reinvent themselves, you can call them a wave rider, but at the same time, in many ways, they're versatile. So few artists could hop on dancehall, drill, R&B, hard hip hop just with bars, and it's like, as much as it pains me, it's like you got to give the guy credit for even being able to jump on drill and even be able to like ride the beat and not sound terrible. I mean, some people think he sounds terrible. I think he sounds half decent, but like,
yeah. Oh, I don't want this to come across as like a sucking off Drake podcast or anything, but I like literally agree with you on so many levels. And the worst part about when discussing Drake online is that there's such like an anti-Drake sentiment that just rambles like so strongly throughout every community. You're always gonna find people that are anti-Drake. But when you look at the shit that Drake has been able to do, and that like, think about the people that Drake has put on or given an opportunity to, and it's just ridiculous. Like, it's the same thing. It's like McCone and Blockboy JB, Migos to a certain extent with Versace. I don't know if you remember Ram Riddles. That was super early on in the whole dancehall wave. That was a few years ago. Whenever Drake does bite, quote unquote, he always gives people an opportunity. Now, you can say, sure, these people have flopped from that opportunity. These people have fallen off from that opportunity. They didn't capitalize on that opportunity. But at the end of the day, is it Drake's position to hold their hand and give them a hit every single time they need a hit? No, he gives them that. Well, you can think that personally. I think if he gives them that opportunity to really go to the next level, that's a huge look to have. And what they do it from there is kind of like, yeah, how they do it from there. But yeah, no, I completely agree. And when we look back at Drake's run, like I don't think people realize how like legendary his run is going to be in 5 to 10 years. Like when we look back, it's going to be some like Michael Jackson, Beatles type shit. Like the numbers are going to be ridiculous.
Totally, bro. I totally agree with everything you're saying. It's like you say, man, it's the Drake clout sucking podcast. But like, for real, man, he is in my opinion, he is probably the most talented artist that rap music has ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, the guy, there's just so many different examples, and you can interpret things differently, because a lot of people have said, and I've kind of agreed, that like, okay, he kind of stole the vibe of Cha Cha from Dram. And like, that's all well and good, but it's like, he didn't just steal it and then Hotline Bling was a hit. Like, Hotline Bling is like a beautiful piece of songwriting. It's a catchy song. It's, Dram's song did as good as Dram's song was going to do, and Drake's song did as good as Drake's song was going to do, and it was an amazing pop song. So it's like, it's just like, it kind of hurts me sometimes to see people like take credit away from Drake. I mean, I'll make fun of Drake nonstop, because I think when you're the biggest artist in the game, it's like Donald Trump being president. Like, for better or for worse, what you think of the guy, like, when somebody is the top spot, they are subject to the most scrutiny, and that 100%. Rings true of Drake. Like, he is the guy, therefore he is also the guy that is going to get made fun of and clowned constantly and torn down. But at the end of the day, like 6ix9ine always says, man, the numbers do not lie, and Drake's a legend. He is the king. He is the king of this whole shit.
That's facts. And it's funny you say about that like cha-cha situation. I think that just speaks to Drake even more, because what was Drake able to do? He was able to come up with a meme and a funny dance that elevated and took it to the next level that Drum would have never been able to do, or never been able to do that level. And we've repeatedly seen Drake being able to do this in multiple cases, where it's not just the music, it's the memification of his music. It's a way he's able to constantly play to these pop culture tropes and really lean into, like even with Tootsie Slide, giving it to a TikToker the week before or a day before and getting it that exposure. He knows how to make pop culture pop. And he's just like, there's so many examples of it over the course of his career. Interestingly, you kind of link it back to 6ix9ine. I don't know if you saw my video on No Jumper today. I feel like you may have seen it. I
saw it went up, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I've been busy the past few days, but walk me through, just give me like a little update of like what your perspective is at the moment.
Okay, I've got the kind of like the stats off the top of my head.
Sick.
So his top 4 best performing songs pre-jail did like 20 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, 20 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, 9 weeks, which averages out, I think, to 15. And then his 4 newest songs on the Billboard Hot 100 did 9 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 week, which averages out to 5. So you've got, before did 14, now it's doing 5 off the top of my head. Then on top of that, on the Spotify Top 200 daily chart, it averages out to, I think it's like 143 before jail, and now it's like 35. So his music's performing like roughly 20 to 30% of what his before jail music was doing. He's also lost, over the last 43 days, he's lost 110,000 Spotify listeners a day. He peaked at 22 and now he's at 17, roughly. So yeah, it's very, very, very interesting. I'm just curious to know what your thoughts on it.
You know what, right? I after my last 6ix9ine video, I kind of just like vowed to stop talking about him for a little while. Partly just because like I'd spoken about the guy so much, and like I lose my mind if I'm looking at the same dude all the time. You know what I mean? But like
pause.
It's a long pause, very long pause. But right, the impression I got, I was thinking he fell off after it was when Punani dropped. He got out of house arrest and he was on the street and he didn't chart. I felt like, ooh, that's an L. Now, a lot of people aren't going to like this. I actually like 6ix9ine's music, not all of it, but like some of his older stuff, like Gotti, I really like. Like genuinely, I just think it's a really cool song. Tati, I love. Some of those earlier songs just get me so lit.
I played Gummo before every single exam, and I've only aced every single exam. I played Gummo before Facts. Gummo, like you can say what you want about his music, it slapped. Gummo, a SoundCloud classic, 100%.
Definitely.
Polls, SoundCloud classic, 100%.
Definitely. So yeah, I totally agree. As far as like, you know, the numbers have definitely shifted. You know, like he dropped his Yaya song. I think was it Yaya the Hispanic one? Was that what it's called? Right?
Yeah, Yaya was a Hispanic one. Interestingly enough, Yaya and Punani both didn't make it onto the top 200 Spotify daily chart in the US market, I should say, and were only on the Billboard Hot 100 for 1 week. So yeah, they like completely flopped. But yeah.
So basically, yeah, I kind of thought he was falling off, and then so this whole Lil Reese thing has happened, right? And I'll be honest with you, like the reason people were streaming 6ix9ine songs before he was in jail was because the image, the shenanigans, all that stuff. But then he was backing it up with good music that fit what he was doing. And I think that's what happened with Trolls. I think that's what happened with Gooba. Like the music really fit the energy of what he had going on, the shenanigans. Even though they weren't necessarily good songs, they were like perfect representations of the energy. For some reason, I just felt like Punani was like, it completely didn't fit the energy of like, I'm out of house arrest, I'm back on the streets. It should have been something really disrespectful, like, I'm back on the streets, fuck you. The song is about me being back on the streets. You're mad, I'm out, you're mad, haha. So it was just like, for some reason, I just felt like there was a complete like clash between those, and I kind of in a way kind of blame that for why it did badly.
I think it undoubtedly it's his worst single I think he's ever made.
Awful.
I think if I'm mistaken, I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure he recorded it, shot the video, and edited the video the same day, or at least he recorded the video and shot the video the same day. But I know it was like a very quick turnaround regardless. And I think it was one of those situations where conspiracy theorists dig. My thinking is he got the information that he was going to be allowed outside like very early on, not very early on, like that moment. And he was like, fuck, I need to make a spectacle out of this. I need to do something out of this. Recorded the song, then shot the video, and it was kind of like a quick turnaround. Whereas like maybe in certain other cases it wasn't so quick. But yeah, undoubtedly, Punani is definitely like his worst single to date. And I think it's really interesting. What I also said in the No Jumper video was, to speak your point about the whole antic situation, like now with him being able to go outside, this whole race situation, like his race video on Instagram is like 16 million views or some shit like
It's
that.
so
Like
funny.
crazy.
It's
funny. It's so hilarious. That's like peak 6ix9ine. That's like 6ix9ine making fun of Juice WRLD. Like that's like peak 6ix9ine video right there. So it's like with him kind of being out there back in that antic situation, him outside, how well is it going to translate to the music now? I think that's like the key question that's like on the top of my mind.
I totally agree. You know what? I feel like, so when Punani dropped and it kind of flopped, I felt like, oh, he's done. He's gone. He's just going to fade out. His album's going to do less than 17K and it's just going to be a big L. And I feel like that's still possible, but to see how much he's turned things around with this Lil Reese thing, I think it's just like, I feel like I've got renewed confidence in him to do whatever he's got to do to make it interesting, because I think after I saw him be out of his house, drop Punani, flops, it was kind of like, well, what? I was thinking like, what is he gonna do? We've seen him be a blood, we've seen him snitch, we've seen him go to jail, we've seen him come out, we've seen him be on house arrest, now we've seen him get out of house arrest. I was just thinking like, he's got no tricks left, but you know, he's going to O Block kissing the floor. I feel like I'm like, damn, I didn't see that one coming. So to be honest, I've got more of an open mind than I did, and I you know, I don't really care what like street rappers think, but I kind of still like the guy. I still think the guy's funny, and he's much like we were saying with Drake, right? It's like 6ix9ine's obviously in a completely different lane to Drake, but it's like 6ix9ine is the best, and he is like the pioneer of this trolling shit. So it's kind of like, I feel like he has got a shot just as far as coming up with some new way to troll people and making it big off of that. So I don't know. I've got a really open mind, and I'm excited like I was when he got out, because when he dropped Punani, I lost all interest, to be honest.
I still think he's definitely going to flop with this album. Not flop in terms of like do completely terrible sales. I definitely don't think his first week sales are going to be amazing. And if they are, like he's going hard on the bundles already. Like I can already tell this is going to be a bundle fuckfest for 6ix9ine. Like this is going to be bundled out. This is going to be merch bundled out. This is just going to be bundle city. So I don't think, I'm going to take back what he said about flopping. I don't think his first week sales are going to be amazing though. And if they are amazing, it's just going to be all bundles or all skewed. So we're not actually going to be able to tell what it is. But regardless of this whole situation, I think what's interesting is like the whole comparison of the US market to the worldwide market, because what's become increasingly evident is no matter what he is in the US market, or how relevant he is or how irrelevant he is, like he's just going to be a worldwide star. And that figure and that face of 6ix9ine, I don't think is ever going to go away, because as you said, how entertaining and how like, yeah, how much of a figure he is, I don't think that's ever going to go away, at least for the foreseeable future, even if he isn't relevant in the US musically speaking.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. I think he's just a phenomenon, man. I don't know. Let's wait and see. Let's see what happens. Let's see what goes on. But what else are you plugged into at the moment, man? Because I feel like you're really interesting to me, because I see your uploads and I feel like you're kind of very much ear to the street. You seem to really know what's going on at the moment. You're very invested in things that are upcoming, whereas I've always I'm very historical. I like going back and pulling stuff from the past, or like pulling up, trying to find things that people have missed. So I'm looking to you, man. What's on the horizon that's exciting apart from 6ix9ine and Drake?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing for me right now is kind of seeing the transition of the 2016-2017 generation of the mainstay artists and the artists who are gonna like disappear. So I think there's like two different classes that we're seeing like transition into 2020 right now, where it's like we've got one class where it's like Uzi, Cardi, Yachty to a certain extent, of artists who are progressing their music, staying relevant, doing good sales, and like maintaining that audience and maintaining that relevance. And then there's a whole other class over here that's like Smoke Perp, Lil Pump, etc., where it's like it's evident that they're just at this point in time, they're just not holding that relevance. And I think this storyline is like so important. And it's one that I've tried to cover in depth on my channel, trying to like cover the different artists and try to cover like how relevant and how their music is performing. But it's something that's like super important, I think, as we go over the next 2 or 3 years. Just seeing what artists stay and what artists don't, because like compared to a generation before where we always had like a handful of artists that stayed relevant over a certain period of time, I think it's going to be a very different story in like 2 to 3 years, because we're already seeing artists like fall off so quickly. So yeah, I think that's something that's like super interesting right now.
Okay, so I've got a bit of a theory on this, and I would love to know what your thoughts are, right? I always feel like, not completely, so I feel like there's maybe like 2 or 3 things at play with these rappers at all times, right? And when I say these rappers, I kind of mean like people that were tipped to be the next big thing, and maybe had their moment looking like the next big thing, or were the next big thing, but then kind of died down. And I feel like it's kind of a selection of things that happen. One theory I have is that it's like you get a lot of people, even like Lil Pump, man. I remember the first time I became aware of Lil Pump, I can't remember what year it was, but like I was at a house party, we were talking about music, I threw on, what's that one? Yeah, came in like a boss. Yeah, ooh. Yeah, Flex Rick Ross, that one.
Yeah, banger.
Yeah, and like I just remember putting it on, and on a big sound system, and I was like, this is different. This kid goes hard, it's super ignorant, his aesthetic is crazy, he doesn't give a shit, he's like 16 or something at the time. I was like, this is exciting. And every time he dropped a song after that, I was invested. I was like, this little crazy kid is just sick. Like, he's so cool.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Different. And I feel like what happened to him is what happened to a lot of people, where it's like he got all of these people on board, and like I was genuinely invested in Lil Pump at the time. And then you get all these people on board, you build up this fan base, and it's kind of like you basically sell that fan base to the record label, you know, sign that major deal, get that big bag, like he got that huge record deal. And then it's kind of like, you know, a number of things happen where it's like they stop being the underdog. To be honest, I feel like the music kind of declined. It felt less like I don't give a fuck and a bit more like I'm turning up for work, handing in music so I can get my bag from the label. And I guess to a certain point, not that Lil Pump got less interesting when he got rich, but like, you know, some of the rappers that blow up go that route. It begins to get to that point where it's like, it stopped being about I don't give a fuck, I am who I am, and it became about I have lots of money, here's how I spend my money. And honestly, man, I can only see so many rappers wear a Patek Philippe on each wrist and like dance around, you know what I mean? There's just
100%.
It just gets dead. So I don't know what you think of that theory, or where you think it goes wrong for the kind of hot topic rappers that fall off.
I'm trying to think of your main points again, because I pretty much agreed with all of them. So it was the point about the music. Sorry, yeah, I'm trying to piece together all that, and I'm like, man's made some good points, but I'm trying to remember again. Real quick,
just as far as like, okay, so it feels like they build a fan base and then sell it out to the label. And then 100%. Like the music stops feeling inspired, even if it was ignorant. It's like Lil Pump's early music feels inspired because I feel his energy, and I don't feel that on his new music. I feel he's just phoning it in. And then at a certain point, it's just all about spending money, which is cool, but also like the Migos are talking about the same watches as Lil Pump's talking about wearing, the same Rolls Royce Wraith that Rich the Kid's driving. And it's just like on the same beats, all on the same sounding beats as well. So
Richie Kid's a whole other discussion. We'll get to him another time. Sure. That's funny you bring up. I think one of the most interesting points we kind of landed on was the whole label situation, and this is something it's a really important discussion, I think, as well, because like back around, like for example, we'd say Playboy Carti, Lil Yachty, right? Lil Yachty, Playboy Carti, even Uzi in this situation. Uzi, Carti, Yachty came out like mid 2014, and then really started to make a buzz for themselves in SoundCloud 2015, and then like they didn't really get the major label push till like early 2016, mid 2016. So they had like 2 years to really develop their sound, gain an audience, etc., etc. The thing that's happening nowadays is with Pump, I think Pump was kind of caught in that wave, but what's happening especially nowadays is that these label A&Rs, or these labels in general, are onto artists as soon as they get 10,000, 20,000 players, because they're so thirsty to find those new stars. So we're seeing artists completely skip that period of them actually being able to attain a fan base, actually being able to identify who they are as an artist and get past that initial stage, to where you get a situation like Pump where he really only makes one style of music, and as you said, he signs over that fan base straight away before he's able to actually develop himself into an artist and really develop that core. And then all of a sudden you get a situation where Lil Pump, 2.5 years, 3 years, he's making redundant music that's boring, and he's still he's using those same antics antics. Like, what did he do? I don't know if you saw this situation where he says Juice WRLD's name in a song, like after he passed away to try to get attention. There was also another situation where he paints his nails and he shaves his eyebrows. And there's another situation where he wears a pink fucking bra.
Did you see the one where he pissed on his money?
Oh god, yeah, 100%. And like, I just want to clear that up. Like, I've got no problems with people can paint their nails, wear a bra, like that's fine, whatever. But it's so evident when people do these things cornerly for attention that it's like, come on, it just gets to a point where the antics just don't work anymore. And I think for Lil Pump, like, yeah, the music got boring. The label just got sold out to his fans. As you said, I didn't word that correctly, but I completely agree with you. And I think what's also interesting though with Lil Pump, I don't know if you've been able to catch this whole transition, is the Latin transition the label has been able to do. That's something that's super, super interesting. And I think it particularly works for Lil Pump because of his name power. But his label basically said, nobody gives a fuck about Lil Pump rapping anymore. Let's just turn into a Latin superstar. And then all of a sudden his streams are up for Latin songs and 2/3 of his output is Latin music now. So that's all right, I guess.
It's a good idea. If anything, I respect the move. I actually really respect the move.
100%. I respect the move 1000%. And the label has to be given some credit. Because they realized, fuck, nobody gives a F about Lil Pump even rapping anymore. Why the fuck do we even want to do this? Let's just spend money, get a fucking Latin ghostwriter, get him in there with J Balvin or whatever the fuck his name is, and produce some fucking Spanish hits.
Smart, man.
And it works.
I need to learn Spanish so that if my channel falls off, I'm gonna start making Latin vids. You know what I mean?
It seems like anyone can make a Latin hit. You just need a ghostwriter, speak some Spanish, get some badass girls in a video, then all of a sudden you got yourself a baby, man. That's how it comes about, seemingly.
Baby, man. And again, great song. I don't know what he's talking about. But I love the song. I love the vibe.
Parquet. What a song.
I like that bit where he's what is it? There's a bit, so I've watched it with the subtitles on, right? And there's a bit where Anuel says something, what about that, what's it, 9 like Takashi? And then on the subtitles, it's like, I give my girl 6'9" like Takashi. And I'm like, that's fire bar. I don't even understand the language, but it's a fire bar in subtitles, so I can't diss it.
My man's pulled it out. Yeah, that song was crazy big. But then, kind of linking back to the discussion to Playboy Cardi or Uzi, I think they're kind of like two examples of like prime like SoundCloud era artists that have been able to transition and have been able to stay relevant over multiple years. And I think the situation with them that's different is, I'm not sure how much of a fan of their music you are. I haven't really been able to gauge off the channel too much because I know you generally don't cover that style of content. But for me personally, as someone who's like more invested in that scene, I'd say more so than you just off rip, their music, album to album, for the most part at least, has really been able to progress, and they've been able to change up their style vocally, sonically, and they've been able to just like really challenge their audience. And that is something that I think differentiates these SoundCloud era artists from each other, where it's like people like Smoke Purple or Pump who aren't able to do that or aren't able to do it as authentically, and then you have people like Uzi and Cardi who are really able to challenge their fan base and continually grow as artists, as any artist in the past traditionally would, just in the sense of like a SoundCloud aesthetic, if you will. Yeah,
totally, man. No, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm big on Uzi. As much, again, similar to Drake, like just because he's a big artist and he wears stupid clothes, like he's always easy to make fun of. But like, as far as musically, man, I can't fault Uzi. You know, not every song on the album is for me, but like I respect it. I think his albums are fire. He's got songs that are some of my favorites. Just some of my favorite songs that if they come on my shuffle, I'm just gonna lose it. But the thing with Carti, is I'm a big Carti fan of some of his earlier stuff. I remember when I first heard Magnolia, I was just like, this kid is crazy. But I feel like just very recently he's just kind of not lived up to those expectations, because I feel like the thing with Uzi, right, is there were these huge expectations of Eternal Take, and then when it finally came to dropping it, I think he met those expectations, he exceeded them. And you know, he gave everyone what they wanted and more. Whereas Carti, I feel like everyone's waiting for him to drop something, and I don't think the last couple of things that came from him scratched the itch people were looking for. And I don't, you know, I wonder whether he's in a position where he doesn't really give a shit what people think, or whether he's kind of thinking, okay, I really need to like step this up to give people what they expect from me. Because, you know, like I say, his earlier stuff's sick, and I know people that love Carti. I know that you're a fan. I feel like you know your expectations must be high. Like you want that album, and you want it to be good, and you want it. And it's just like, you know, when at what point is he going to do it? Is there maybe some sort of like paralysis his end as far as just like not sure what people are looking for? I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. You basically hit like the point right there you said about like him not knowing where to go. I think that kind of speaks everything, because like back in like an interesting backstory with Cardi is like when he was in SoundCloud before he dropped the project with Magnolia subtitled, he never had a project before, so he was out for 3 years, no project, and everybody was waiting for that project. But it was pretty clear that Cardi didn't give a F about people, and that he was just willing to wait for the music that he wanted to make in order to drop that project. And I think it's a really interesting situation what we're seeing going on right now. I'm not sure how aware of you are of like all the leaks and all that situation that's going on with the Whole Lotta Red, but over the course of these 2 years, basically like album songs have leaked continually to the point where he's already meant to have been put out the album, but the music has just leaked again and again. And we got to a point where they tried to kickstart the rollout with At Me back in April and May, but that song completely flopped, completely tanked. Again, I've said this before in my own videos, but a label doesn't wait 2 years to drop an album and then the first single they release get on the Billboard chart for a week and a half, then completely flop and completely fall off. No, they wait 2 years to kickstart a rollout to make that first single a hit. So yeah, I think Cardi is in a very, very worrying situation right now, and especially considering it's been 2 years removed since he's had a commercial hit, and on top of that, Pain 1993 song with Drake wasn't a hit either. I think he's in a, like, although I give a lot of praise to Cardi and I'm undoubtedly a stan, it's pretty clear right now he's in a very, very like odd situation. And yeah, I don't know how well he's going to do from here. He really needs to have a hit, like really needs to have a hit, like super bad.
It certainly feels that way, man.
Yeah.
The thing is, right, you know, as much as I clown people, it must be hard to be in that situation where, you know, you're just trying to get your music out, you're trying to be creative, and then like the label's not quite going about it the right way, and then like you're doubting yourself, your music's getting leaked. Oh, it's got to suck, man. It's got to suck. I can sympathize.
Oh, 1,000%. I can't even imagine in that scenario. Like, and on top of that, like Cardi, he's in a relationship with Iggy. He just had a newborn kid. Also, I'm not sure if you saw, but he got arrested. Well, he got pulled over and got found with the drugs and guns earlier on in the year as well. Like, had that whole arrest situation. So there's been clearly a lot of extraneous like circumstances on Cardi, and I can't imagine like the whole like a leaking situation must play into it as well. I'm also curious to get your thoughts on the whole, this was like really big news over last week, the whole YBN situation. I'm not sure how much you kind of followed that or.
I didn't read too closely into that. I mean, I've taken a passing interest in those guys over the years. I really enjoyed that mixtape that they put out.
That was fire.
They had some sick songs on there, like was it Chopsticks and stuff. There's some tunes that I was really into, and I remember when Namir dropped Rubbing Off the Paint, I was into that. Always been fascinated about how those guys came up, but I didn't really stay super plugged into it. But from what I understand, they've kind of disbanded. They're sort of dropping the name and going their own way. Is it kind of beef or is it just stagnation? Because I did feel like, again, it was like they dropped that mixtape that was really cool, and then I didn't see too much from them. And you know, the most I'd been seeing was like YBN Almighty J getting into shenanigans and like getting into some a little bit of trouble when he was in different states and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a light way to put it, but yeah, basically, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Basically, it's just stagnation, and it's interesting because, as you said, like Namir originally came out, was a peak, he put on for the crew, then Jay and Corday actually followed through and kind of did their own thing, but the roles are like kind of reversed, like changed as time went on. Towards over the last year or so, it's Corday who really got that platform, was really the most popular artist, and then Namir was kind of second, and Jay was always kind of the last one, and Corday is actually the only one that's, as far as I'm aware, that's officially left the group. So a lot of people in this case, what they're kind of saying is like Corday kind of did like a shifty and was a bit of a snake in this situation because he used Namir to get on because Namir was the most popular at first, but then when it doesn't suit him to put on for the group, just like Namir did, he kind of ups and leaves. And I'm not sure if you just saw, Corday just got a feature on Lyrical Lemonade with Roddy Ricch.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that. You know what? You know what? Again, like you say, like I'd kind of, at that point when I saw that, I'd kind of just forgotten like that he was even the YBN Corday. Yeah. Just like, oh yeah, this guy, this is fire. This is cool. Yeah, it's funny exactly that. Right. Yeah, I haven't kept an eye on that one. I might need to look into that one a little bit more. But you're a big Corday fan, right?
Honestly, not as much as a Corday fan. Okay. I like his music. Actually, no, I'm a pretty big Corday fan. Lost Boy, Lost Boy, the album was really, really good. I honestly didn't follow much of the YBN's music on their come up as much. Like I didn't follow the tape a lot. I didn't follow Namir as much, but Cordae's album I did listen to quite a bit. That was pretty good. I just didn't follow a lot of the early music a lot of the time. I definitely think that's like a TLR video in the future though.
Yeah, I might have to look into that a little bit more deeply.
I definitely think because I definitely think there's some interesting storylines and some interesting narratives there for sure.
Well, speaking of which, speaking of TLR videos, I guess like the kind of last thing that I'm really excited to talk to you about, just in general, is just like it's been dope to watch you do more stuff and like broaden your horizons. You're doing some reporting with No Jumper, which is sick. I mean, that's just the most incredible platform. I love No Jumper. Man. Love Adam. Love that you're doing stuff over there.
Cheers, bro.
I'd just be curious to know what you think as far as like the YouTuber rap scene, the rap tuber scene, because I feel like, you know, I've been very fortunate to kind of get involved and really take off over the last couple years. There's been a lot of new interesting faces. You know, some have stuck around, some haven't. You know, some people are more well liked than others or whatever. But it feels like a really good space that's been emerging. I'd be interested to know how you feel it's maybe going to change or where it's going and where you want to go with it.
That's a really interesting question. Like, it's funny because I've been like at it for like over 3 years now. Like I got started in December of 2016, so I've seen like a lot of like faces come, go, and like seen like the different emerges and everyone kind of like start in a similar place, but kind of in terms of like the audience, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of like the audience they cater for and then fall into different places. Because I think at the start you kind of start like very broad. Like for me at the start I was covering like a lot of different artists, and then you just kind of like narrowed it down to like now I'm like a lot of like SoundCloud era artists, for example. So I think that's one interesting thing in terms of the broader landscape, is seeing kind of like the different artists, the different artist audiences and the kind of like scenes that people kind of cater towards. I lost my train of thought. There was a bigger point. Okay, one thing that I think is like super interesting though is like I think it's interesting why people would watch rap YouTubers so much, considering they could just like watch Genius or watch XXL or could read the media or read the news. But I think one thing that like we satisfy is like all these outlets have like such huge label ties that it makes it so hard for them to do objective journalism and be critical of artists. And I think that's one thing where like rap YouTubers like really, really shine. And it's one thing where like why we really get the audiences is because we're really able to provide maybe not always unbiased reporting, because we're always going to have some sort of bias, but really critical reporting when people aren't really in a space to be critical because of their ties. So I think that's one niche or one area that like the rap YouTuber space like really, really thrives in. And like people like Hello Yassine, I think like someone like him, he really thrives in the area of being able to like really expose artists and really be critical of artists and really tell those artists backstories where other hip-hop media like really, really won't. I'll be honest, I just ranted a bit for a minute there. I may have just lost my way. I kind of said a few things, but I'm excited. I love watching everyone grow, and I love watching like everybody just kind of do their own thing. And I think it's super interesting. Like everybody kind of has their own niche and like has their own strengths and has their own weaknesses, just like any other YouTube scene and just like any other YouTube channel. So it's really, really interesting.
See, the way I see it is that I feel like in many ways it's really the scene, and even though I'm in many ways I'm pretty new to it, you know, you've kind of been around longer than me doing this kind of content, and it's interesting to see it evolve. Like for example, the people that are really at the top, like we've seen them evolve and move into different fields. So for example, like you've got academics, you know, kind of came up doing very simple content, and he still does the same kind of content on YouTube now on his main channel that he was doing, you know, a few years ago. But at the same time, he's supplemented that. He's on Everyday Struggle. You know, he's doing Twitch obviously, but like it's kind of like that everyday struggle and being a face at Complex and trying to be more traditional media. That's the route he's chosen to go down, and that's amazing that he's even been able to do that and get into that space just from having done stuff on YouTube and done it all himself. What I've been super inspired by over the past few weeks is to see Adam over on No Jumper doing like the way they've got their new studio, they've got their desk, they're kind of reporting on the news more like they're a late night talk show, and the production standards have just gone through the roof. And I feel like I'm super, super excited to just see him doing that, and I'm super inspired to see him. He's almost creating this sort of like hip hop late night talk show vibe, which is like
100%.
Something that's never been done before, right? And it's like he's early to it. and sort of becoming this like hip hop Howard Stern, Jay Leno-y kind of hybrid of people, and it's just dope. So that's great. And it's like, so he's kind of gone off in that direction. And then there's sort of other, it's like DJ Vlad, it's like he's sort of going the more crime documentary avenue. Which I think is also super interesting but different.
And I think you also play into that low key though, because I think you were really the one to create these long form narrative videos. Like I don't think people, maybe they were able to do it sparingly, but I don't think people were really able to do these like 40-minute, 30-minute, 20-minute like long form exposés into like really in-depth topics. So I think even like, maybe like 2 years ago, your topics would have been done by someone else for 5 minutes with them in a video with them images. But now the progression of the content is you doing 30-minute, 40-minute exposés where they're like basically fully fledged documentaries like twice a week or once a week or whatever. So I think you kind of fit into that narrative of like pushing the content forward and pushing the whole content forward, just like how Adam is in his own respective space. And I think what you said about him is 100% correct as well.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, I want to definitely give some credit and a big salute to, if you know Quake GW, his channel Diverse Mentality. I think he was
really good.
Amazing. Like before I came along and sort of was doing things to the level I was doing, he makes the most amazing analytical beef videos, some of them 1-2 hours, multi parts. And that was definitely something that inspired me as far as just thinking like, okay, well, it's clear that there's an appetite for people to sit and really listen in depth to the details of the story. But I think the kind of the thing where we're all kind of different, everyone brings their own voice to it. I think for me, regardless of the length of the video I was doing, I felt like I always wanted to bring my passion to it and kind of do a couple of things, which was like put myself at the core of the story, not as far as like getting involved in it, but just like I don't want to like tell the story. It's like I don't want to tell the story as it happened, but I want to give people like my interpretation of it, and that's why I kind of go in with the jokes. I wanted people to hear the story not as if I was, the perfect documentary on TV, but as if I was telling my friend the story, because I used to tell my friends stories and clown and fuck around. Just like, oh, did you know that Jay-Z did this back in the day? And like, oh man, I bet you didn't know this about 50 Cent. So like trying to inject that into it, and that's why it's like I kind of see, like we were saying with like Adam, and it's like, DJ Vlad and Quake, and like everyone's got their kind of angle, and I've just really tried to like inject myself and like my weird personality into the stories, and not just for the sake of it, but like because I feel like that's unique. I feel like I've got a unique spin on stories because I'm a weird guy that shouldn't really be this into hip hop in some ways, you know what I mean? And it's like that's what I at least I think helps me stand out, and I hope that that's what kind of gives me the longevity, just as far as like, people can copy story ideas, or people can cover the same artists, but I don't think that that's any problem for the scene. I think the problem in the scene is not problem, but just like I think the thing that will give people sustenance long term is like being themselves, giving a perspective on the story, and like it's like when I watch your videos, bro. It's like I see the enthusiasm that you bring through, and like the enthusiasm you have for certain artists and stories can't be replicated by anyone else. So I think that's just like super key.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting, like, I don't really, in terms of like where, like, clearly I think you have like an idea of where you want to go in like the next 3-4 years. In terms of myself, maybe I don't really have that same direction, because like I like YouTube for me is still just like a side passion, or like a side hobby. Like I'm studying full time, I work part time, I'm doing like a few internships on the side and stuff like that over the past year or so. So like a lot of my content is generally like a lot short form. It's like very news driven, gossipy a lot of the time, because I don't really have a lot of time to really do anything else but that. But yeah, it's really interesting to think about, like, I don't know the direction of my content over the next year or so, or like if I'll be even making content for the next 2 or 3 years. But no, it's definitely interesting to think like where it could go from here, in terms of, because like the budgets are only increasing, the quality of content is only increasing. So like it's crazy to think about the YouTube rapper space in like 2 to 3 years, and like it's only a matter of time as well before like people like other like mainstream media outlets, like even what Genius has been able to do, Genius should have been doing that 3-4 years ago. Like there's no reason why Genius only got into that scene like a couple years ago. So it's really interesting to see it all kind of progress. for sure.
Totally, bro. I mean, the fact that you've got all those things going on in your personal life and you're able to get to the point you are and put out content that's this good all the time is just, you know, incredible. So, you know, you got to be super proud of that. And yeah, man, it's, you know, I feel like the sky's the limit with this. You know, it's like if you've got the true passion, the one thing you can't fake is like the real passion for it. And you know, whatever you end up doing, you know, as long as you keep following your passion and keep putting that on the screen, you know, you'll end up in a good position, whether it's like the channel being huge in a certain way, or you doing content in a different way, or you doing content somewhere else but with the same energy in a really big way. I feel like it's that passion that will like get you through to the next level, and kind of like that's what I'm all about, man. It's just like, if you really are into this, and it's, you know, some people especially in this space want to put you down, or just be like, oh, you know, you don't really know what you're talking about, who are you to talk about this stuff? And it's just like, well, you know, I'm going to show you over a period of 2-3 years who I am to talk about this stuff. I'm the guy that's truly passionate about it. I'm passionate enough to drop everything I'm doing and watch nothing but 6ix9ine interviews for 2 weeks, and it's like that's who I am. That's what I have to contribute. So, you know, I hope
that's
that
a whole
shines through.
lot of Takashi. Yeah, 100%. And I think on a personal level, like we can really relate to that, especially like being like from foreign countries. I think we go through that kind of like process of like, when someone first watches us, they're very like, oh, why the fuck is this guy telling me about hip hop? What is with his accent, etc., etc. Whereas like if we were American, we would probably be able to gain fans a lot easier, because they don't have that initial kind of like trepidation, or that initial like, oh, what is going on here? Where it's like, yeah, people probably have to watch us like 2 to 3 times more to really get that same sense of like comfort or like appreciation for the content, compared to if we were American. So I think that's something that's like super interesting.
Yeah, man. In a way, it's almost good, right? Because it gives you something to prove. It kind of forces you to prove that it's not a fluke, because it's like, you know, if you can't rely on those things, if you can't rely on just like being completely familiar with the audience immediately, then you have to overcome that by having enthusiasm, by having good facts, good research, knowing what you're talking about, and like bringing perspective that people haven't necessarily seen before. So I feel like we're just fluffing ourselves up a little bit here, but you know, I feel like that's the experience that we've had, and that's what we can contribute, because we're going through it now. But
yeah, 1000%,
bro, it's such a good chat, man. Honestly, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And
that went really, really well.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you.
Let's do it again very soon, and you know what I mean. Who knows where it could go.
100%.